You are going to be fatigued, constantly dysregulated, and never feeling safe in your body if you're missing these three things. Fats, minerals, and amino acids are the most important nutrients to feed your mitochondria. And these agents create enough electricity in your mitochondria to begin to heal your nervous system.
Mitochondria are the puppet masters of your life. They're environmental sensors. They're ancient bacteria that still act like bacteria. They decide what they're going to allow you to see. It's like there's a sensor running all the time. So your body can say, I'm not going to let you see that. I'm going to make you feel this way about that. They're manipulating you all the time. And that's why you want to keep them healthy and happy and at full power so they're not afraid, which means you don't experience anxiety and you're harder to trigger.
Dave Asprey is an entrepreneur and best-selling author and the father of biohacking. In today's episode, Dave tells us the exact things that are blocking us from healing emotionally in the context of the mitochondria and what things we need to remove from our life in order for our mitochondria to heal. So if you're suffering with fatigue, mental health issues, emotional exhaustion, listen to this episode and start learning how to heal your mitochondria. All right, Dave, thank you for coming on the show, man. This must be your 1,155th podcast you've been on.
Probably.
But what an honor to have you here, man. And like I was saying off air, I followed your career for a while. I love so many things you've been talking about. You were one of the first people to teach me about blue blocking glasses back when I was in school. So
nice.
I don't have them on today, but it is what it is. Anyway, I love how we're sort of transitioning in health and wellness in a bit. Now, talking about the nervous system, talking about regulation of the nervous system. And in all your research, all your conversations, all the people you've met, how important is this regulation of the nervous system in the context of even physical health?
It's kind of a chicken and egg problem. If your cell biology is dysregulated, your nervous system will be dysregulated. If your nervous system is dysregulated, your cell biology will be dysregulated. I like to teach people to make more electricity in their cells, to have appropriate nourishment, enough minerals, the right fats to build healthy cell membranes, to avoid toxins, because a lot of the time, just that reduces the physiological stress. And to us, that feels like our emotional stress went down, but it was just stress from the body just not getting what it needs. And if you do that first, and then you do nervous system regulation work, it's easier. But if you're like I did, I had mold toxins and a lot of brain fog, chronic fatigue syndrome. I weighed 300 pounds. It's really hard to regulate your nervous system because of physiology. But could you do both at the same time? Yes. It just feels like a lot of work to regulate the nervous system. And if your body's not making enough electricity and you push on your nervous system to regulate, you don't have as much energy to push. So I would say you got to do both. And some things are really easy and low-hanging fruit, and some things are really hard. And my path has been definitely fixing my biology and at the same time working on nervous system regulation to the point that I run a neuroscience clinic that does that called 40 Years of Zen. And I'm an advisor to dozens of companies who do things like that. And probably the first group that really taught this to me was called the HeartMath Institute. Mm-hmm. And I became an advisor to them in 2008, way back in the day, and was a certified coach for a while. And to this day, I still recommend their text sometimes when there's someone who's just really stuck and doesn't know what it feels like to consciously move from that stressed sympathetic state into a parasympathetic state. And it's with all sorts of different kinds of training, you can learn what it's like when your body flips, and you can learn how to consciously flip it back. But these are states that are invisible to you unless you've developed some kind of a practice.
Mm-hmm. I love that you were talking about chicken and egg, right? And doing both helps each part, the mental, emotional, spiritual, and then the physical component. But you mentioned about cells and feeding the membrane of the cell. What are some of the top things we can do right now to start that process of creating more electricity in the body?
The first one would be get rid of seed oils in your diet. Switch to ancestral saturated fats, some, but not too much olive oil, and magic happens. But it takes about 2 years to replace half the fat in your cell membranes. It's called the half-life of fats in the body. Except your white fat, which is love handles, and the fat in your brain, it shifts much more quickly and much more radically. So when people started putting butter in their coffee, a little thing I invented a while ago, got to be kind of a big thing. And when you do that, the first 2 years, it's like you just can't get enough. You're just craving butter and I got to put it in my coffees. And after 2 years, you just wake up one day and you're like, you know what? It's good. I don't need as much. And that's because you now replenished your body and now it's just acting as a nutrient instead of as a rebuilder. So I find that people do it for 2 years and then they keep doing it, but they do it with less butter and the cravings are gone. And that's because 2 years is half the fat. 4 years is 75% of the fat in your body. I haven't eaten seed oils in 15 years and I'm 4.8% body fat. I'm never hungry. And I used to be super obese and I've never been this lean and energetic. It's kind of ridiculous. It's not the only thing I do, but it's a big thing.
But it's a big thing.
Yeah.
And okay. So then I know we're talking about nervous system. Like, we got to get back to that, but I really want to talk about then what is the controversy so much on seed oils? I mean, you open up Instagram, there's people saying, no, there's no evidence that seed oils are this and this and that. Other people are saying seed oils ruined my life. Why is there so much controversy?
Well, back in the early 1900s, this guy named Reverend Kellogg, you heard of him before?
I think I have.
Yeah. So Reverend Kellogg started Kellogg's and he believed that sexual desire was the root of all evil. And the cure for this was to create a food that would lower libido in humans, which was a low-fat food, cornflakes. And this guy was kind of a perv. He had all sorts of other bizarre practices that he was promoting, including female circumcision. But somehow, because of the power of marketing, today we think that this libido-lowering food is health food. It's not. And that was the beginning of this anti-fat thing. And then Crisco and companies like that figured out in the 50s, oh, we can sell this plant oil as being better for you than the more expensive fats that everyone uses. That was the same time that big tobacco was having people in lab coats say, doctors recommend Marlboro the most. It was because our consciousness and our beliefs were manipulated. And we grew up with that. It doesn't matter what the science says if you've been emotionally programmed that way. And the people say, well, there's no science showing these are bad for you. You just have to ignore huge amounts of studies to say there's no science. Same thing with people who say cell phones have no effect on human health. Like there's 10,000 studies that show that there is an effect and some of them stronger than others. But to say there's no effect, you have to be either intentionally lying, or more likely, you can't see the evidence because your body automatically just dismisses it as not being valid. And it does that because your nervous system is dysregulated.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're seeing that which makes our nervous system feel most safe, even if it's uncomfortable in whatever place it is. So it's so interesting when we see that about seed oils and that the history of that. And I know that there was a lot of controversy with Kellogg's this past week. People trying to move out the food dyes. So
yeah, Vanny called me and asked if I could come with her, and I was actually scheduled to come down here, so I didn't go to Kellogg's, but I wanted to.
You would have been down there.
Yeah, I mean, these artificial colors, the bad oils, like it's evil that they do that to kids. We've got to put an end to that. And my kids, they learned from a very young age, what you eat controls how you feel. You get to be in charge of how you feel. So they generally eat things that make them feel good, which are healthy, but they don't just eat because of flavor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm always astounded by parents say, oh, my kids just won't eat. I'm like, that's great. Like, what do you mean? Look, if your kids don't want to eat, you just say, oh, I'm so excited. You're joining me in an intermittent fast. Your body can go 60 days without food and you won't die. So you don't need to eat every day. I'm so proud of you for choosing to see how long you can go without food. Let's do it together. And there's no 5-year-old on the planet who won't just go, and then they'll eat whatever.
The opposite of whatever mom and dad are saying. Yeah, that's a really smart way to do it. I don't have kids yet, but I got that in my notepad right now.
Good.
But I love this like understanding. Okay, yeah, nervous system regulation. We don't talk about seed oils in nervous system regulation because we're not looking at the cell and like you said, the energy charge that is being nurtured within it.
So each cell has a membrane on the outside, and it has to be flexible enough to allow its receptors to be expressed, things like insulin receptors. A major cause of insulin resistance and therefore type 2 diabetes is stiffening of the cell membranes from excessive plant oils. Like these are not healthy just because they come from plants. In fact, most plants you can't eat, they'll kill you. So And I say that and people, what do you mean? I'm like, go into the forest and just put some stuff in your mouth and you'll literally end up in the hospital or at least in the bathroom in just a few minutes, because there's very few that we can eat. And just because we can eat them doesn't mean we want to concentrate their oils into the amount we would never get and then treat them with chemicals and put them into our cell membranes where they create free radicals. But that's the outer membrane. Inside the cells, there are hundreds to thousands of mitochondria. And these are not the power plants of the cells, the way you hear in seventh grade biology. They're environmental sensors. They're ancient bacteria that still act like bacteria. Like, what's going on around me? I'm in this big petri dish that moves around. And based on what I feel, I'm going to decide to make heat, electricity, or hormones or other things that are beneficial or inflammatory molecules. So their membrane is also made out of fats. So what happens when you eat bad fats, like seed oils, is you make less electricity in your cells. And in my book on longevity, which is called Superhuman, I found research, 48% of people under age 40 have early onset mitochondrial dysfunction. That means you're taking 30 pounds of air and some amount of food, you combine them, and then you don't make as much heat or electricity or hormones as you're supposed to. And everyone over age 40, they just call it aging unless you've done something about it. So it's not like, do I make energy or not make energy? It's, am I good at making energy? And if you can be at full power, then it's really easy to regulate your nervous system because your body isn't worried about energy as much.
I love that.
That's the missing piece.
Because we're not talking about the cells in the context of the nervous system.
Yeah.
And this is really powerful information, because when you say the mitochondria is like environmental sensors, then I guess we can conclude that it's also sensing, is my environment safe from any threats or traumas, not just environmental toxins.
Oh, yeah.
And so it stands to believe feeding the mitochondria the perfect fats, the good minerals, as you said, and the outer membrane is going to create more electricity, more energy, more regulation.
And let's say that you're super traumatized. So I was born, I had the cord wrapped around my neck. I had PTSD from birth. I've had to deal with all sorts of emotional stuff. And well, what happens if you're at full energy and you have PTSD is you'll have full power PTSD, or you could just get chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, which I had in my 20s. And then you're super tired and PTSD. I'd rather be at full power and PTSD because then I have the energy to work on it and do something to reprogram my threat networks. And it's funny that we talk about the nervous system, but what is the frontline sensor for the nervous system? It's mitochondria. Your neurons have 15,000 mitochondria per neuron, and the other cells usually have a few hundred, except in women. Women's ovaries have 100,000 mitochondria per cell. I actually think that's one of the reasons that we talk about female intuition is the higher the mitochondrial density, the more you can sense the world. It kind of makes sense that way.
That's incredible. We I remember in seventh grade learning about mitochondria first. Powerhouse of the cell was the first thing. And then going through school, you learn about the mechanism of energy being made. We don't talk about it being an environmental sensor.
The real way to teach about mitochondria are the puppet masters of your life. Because these little bastards, they're in there. They sense the environment right away. They decide what they're going to allow you to see. They actually vote with each other. And there's a third of a second delay between when a signal hits your body and when the mitochondria and the nervous system allows the signal into the brain. It's like if I clap my hands, you think, well, as soon as the sound got to me, I heard it. But if we had electrodes measuring your auditory processing, you don't get any sign that there was a sound because of that third of a second delay. It's like there's a sensor running all the time. So your body can say, I'm not going to let you see that. I'm not going to let you hear that. I'm going to make you pay more attention to that. I'm going to make you feel this way about that. They're manipulating you all the time. And that's why you want to keep them healthy and happy and at full power. So they're not afraid, which means you don't experience anxiety and you're harder to trigger. This is why it's hard to separate the health of the body from the health of the nervous system. But even if you ignore eating the right fats and getting enough protein and very especially having certain minerals that we can go deeper on if you like, even if you separate those, there are techniques that will calm the nervous system or stimulate it. And sometimes you need both. depending on where you are and which part of the nervous system we're talking about.
What's up, everyone? I am thrilled to share a game changer that is making a big difference in the wellness routine. That is SiPhox Health. If you're like me and you understand the importance of keeping tabs on your health, let's get real. Getting regular blood tests can be such a hassle. I know a lot of people who go, I haven't got my blood test in like 3-4 years. I say, oh, shoot. And I get it. It's like making appointments, driving to the lab, waiting for results. That is where SiPhox Health comes in. With SiPhox, you can get a full picture of your health from the comfort of your own home. They offer the only comprehensive at-home blood testing solution out there. No other company. No appointment needed, no travel required, just a simple, quick process to collect your sample and send it off. It's that easy. And within days, you get a detailed insight into your health delivered straight to your device. And what I really love is how clear and easy it is to understand the results. So no more feeling overwhelmed by medical jargon. A lot of you are just like, oh, what does this mean? The people send me like, here is my medical results. Can you read this? What does this mean? Well, SiPhox breaks down everything for you with personalized assessments and actionable recommendations that actually make sense. What a fantastic company, right? It's like you have a roadmap right in front of you for your health. Plus, through regular biomarker testing, you can keep an eye on important health markers, spot potential issues before they even become serious, and actually see how your lifestyle changes and makes a difference with your blood. You can upload any recent blood work for free, and SiPhox will provide detailed insights and explanations to help you understand your results better. It's such a low barrier way to try out this platform, and if you're into taking things to the next level, SiPhox can create a custom supplement protocol tailored to your specific blood work and goals, helping you stay on track for your health journey. So if you're ready to take control of your health and start optimizing your wellness, head over to SiPhoxHealth.com/heal thyself to get 20% off of your first at-home blood test. That is SiPhox Health.com/heal thyself. Enjoy. All right, according to the EPA, indoor air can be 2 to 5 times more polluted than outdoor air, and in some cases, up to 100 times worse. I've always been conscious about air quality, especially here living in Los Angeles. And with the constant buzz of all these things going on and traffic and highways, combined with seasonal allergies, which I can be sensitive to, it can really affect my breathing and overall well-being. That's when I discovered AirDoctor. It's been a game changer for me. I've had it for 4 years. AirDoctor is an incredible air purifier that filters out 99.99% of dangerous contaminants and allergens. We're talking about pollen, pet dander, dust mites, mold, and even bacteria and viruses. What I love about AirDoctor is how quiet it is. They use whisper jet fan technology, which is 30% quieter than any other ordinary air purifier. I can have it running in my bedroom all night. I don't even notice that it is there. And since I started using AirDoctor, I've noticed a significant improvement in my allergies and my breathing and the cleanliness, smell of the home. The air just feels more fresh and I'm sleeping better too. It's amazing how much of a difference pure, clean air can make. It is one of my first interventions when I was practicing is talking about home air. And now you know my favorite air purifier out there. AirDoctor offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you don't love it, you can send it back for a refund minus shipping. And here is some great news for you, the Heal Thyself listener. AirDoctor is offering you an exclusive deal. Head to airdoctorpro.com and use the promo code DRG. Depending on the model you choose, you can receive up to 39% off or up to $300 off. Plus, you get a 3-year warranty on any unit, which is an additional $84 value. To lock in this special offer, go to airdoctorpro.com and use the promo code DRG. That is airdoctorpro.com, and the promo code is DRG. Okay, so we can drink an electrolyte drink. Is that enough minerals for people? Like, are we missing minerals? Is there a major mineral we're missing that we need to implement?
It turns out that our food doesn't have a lot of minerals in it anymore. And people say ridiculous things like, but spinach has iron. What soil was that spinach grown in? There's probably not any iron left in the soil. And even though spinach does have iron, spinach is loaded with a plant toxin called oxalate that steals calcium and iron and zinc from your bones. So the fact it's in the plant doesn't matter if the plant is sucking minerals out of your bones. And this happens with a lot of the superfoods that are actually causing osteoporosis and kidney stones and interstitial cystitis. Things like spinach, kale, beets, Even almonds and raspberries are a trigger if you eat a ton of them, because we never had those historically. You know, how would you find an almond in the wild? Bitter almonds kill you, and that's what wild almonds are. So you realize, oh, not all plants are good, and an unlimited amount of them isn't, because they're stealing minerals and they don't have minerals. So what I do is I take something called vitamin DAKE, which is vitamin DAKE. This is an affordable mix of fat-soluble vitamins. You need those and Minerals 101, which is the formula that goes with it. Minerals 101 is a stack of about 7 different minerals that your body's missing. And your bones need way more than magnesium and calcium to be strong. There's about 17 minerals in them. So when you get these macro minerals and the fat-soluble vitamins that guide the minerals to the right place in the body, then calcium goes into your bones instead of going into calcifying your arteries or scar tissue or your brain. And for comparison, I had a yoga injury from about 10 years ago, and I was doing the crow pose, and I kicked back to plank, which is something you do in yoga class, so everyone can just be impressed. You know, it's an advanced thing, but I landed wrong and did something to the joint in my toe, and no amount of stem cells or anything was fixing it. It was starting to calcify. So I had the bone rebuilt. So they actually cut the bone in my foot in half, and I was awake for it. It was here in Beverly Hills. And Dr. Ali Sadre, who's doing the surgery, only does like pro athletes and celebrity people.
I know him.
You know him. He's a great guy.
Orthopedic.
He's been on the show. And I'm awake for it because I'm a nerd that way. You can't feel it. It's all numb. And you hear the bone saw. It's like, and he looks at the nurse. He's like, I'm having a hard time getting through the bone. And afterwards he goes, what are you doing? I operated on someone half your age and their bones cut like butter, and I could barely get through your bones. What is happening? Like, well, minerals and vitamin DAKE.
Wow.
And after the big minerals, these macro minerals, there's also trace and ultra trace minerals that your body needs. And these are in very, very small amounts. So my new coffee brand after Bulletproof is called Danger Coffee. And it's danger because who knows what you might do. And the coffee's enriched with ionic, trace, and ultra trace minerals and electrolytes. So those are going to get into the cells because they're ionic. I also use a ton of electrolyte things like Element, because sodium is a really important mineral and most people are deficient in sodium. The more stress you're under, the more sodium you need, but you need balancing with potassium and magnesium and things like that. So electrolyte drinks aren't going to do it. And even Minerals 101, it's 3 pills to get just enough minerals. That's how big they are when they're in the form your body can absorb. So for me, it's vitamin DAKE and Minerals 101 and Danger Coffee is what I believe is behind the stronger bones.
I love that. I love it because you mentioned something so important, the soil, not giving us enough vitamins or minerals. But then when we're living in this world, super stressed, calling on our adrenals to take up all these vitamins and minerals, we're depleted. And actually, I think a lot of us are suffering from mineral depletion and calling it X, Y, and Z.
It's incredible what happens, even with just the minerals in Danger Coffee. I was talking with a guy down here, and he's done 10,000 tests of people's electrical capacity to make energy in their cells. He says, use that kind of minerals, and in his data, about 6 hours, your body makes more electricity in your cells. You can measure it. And this is because whenever there's stress, whether it's negative stress, like chronic stress, anxiety, or stress from picking up a dumbbell or something, the body says, okay, there was a stressful period. Do I feel safe? And do I have raw ingredients? If so, I'll transform. So if there's a stress and then you say, well, I had enough fat and protein, but I still don't have any zinc, your body can't do it. It's going to do its best, but it's missing a foundational building block. And the same with meditation. Okay, I'm going to try and meditate here. And I go back to when I was a raw vegan, which makes you insanely mineral depleted. And I was a very well-trained one with sprouted, blended, and sea moss, which is bad for you, and all sorts of crap. And you can regulate your nervous system after a while of doing that because you're so depleted of minerals. And just when I finally got my levels back up, it's like another level of power. It's really cool. Yeah.
So you can do all the mental, emotional practices, but you're coming from the aspect, yes, your nervous system regulation needs a foundational vitamins and minerals and fats. That you would say those are the 2 biggest building blocks, vitamins, minerals, and fats.
Vitamins, minerals, fats, and animal protein. You've got to have the amino acids from the animal protein. And like I said, I've been a vegan, a devout vegan. I've also been a regenerative farmer and raised my own animals and eaten them with gratitude and all of that. And it is exceptionally difficult to be at your full power if you're going to not have animal protein. Plant-based protein, even if you're using a highly processed, industrially separated protein, it's 30% as effective as animal protein. That means that for my body weight, about 200 pounds, I need 200 grams of animal protein a day. That's a lot. If I was going to do plant-based protein, I would need 600 grams. I would literally be stuffing myself with like one of those feeding tubes to make geese fat. I don't even know how you could get that much in.
Impossible.
So there's no moral superiority to plant-based protein. It's a highly processed industrial food. And this is just big companies trying to sell you peasant food as if it's better for you than the highest quality food that they're eating.
But what about when they say, okay, this protein powder has all the essential amino acids? Is our body not going to recognize that? Or are you saying that the other ingredients in there are going to be...
The other ingredients work as well. And the fact that it has aminos doesn't mean that the aminos are separated. And it doesn't mean your body can digest them. And it doesn't mean that it's free of bioestrogens. It doesn't mean that it's free of phytic acid, which sucks minerals out of your body, or that it's free of oxalates.
I'm going to talk to you something that has been a game changer in my routine. You know, I'm always looking for natural ways to support the body. And just recently, I'm talking about my sales guy, just recently introduced me to Cornbread Hemp USDA organic CBD gummies. And he knew that I would want to listen to it because I love gummies. I've loved them since I was a kid. And I love when gummies deliver therapeutic doses of the medicine that you want to take. And here, the therapeutic medicine is that CBD. And I'm going to share this with you. What I was really impressed is that these aren't just any CBD gummies. They're actually the first USDA organic CBD gummies in America. And when I saw that USDA stamp, I was like, okay, I'm listening. And here's what makes it special. Instead of using the whole plant like companies do, Cornbread only uses the flower part of the hemp plant. That is the most potent and pure part of the plant, which means you're getting the highest quality, full spectrum experience possible. And I love how thoughtfully these are made. They're completely vegan, free from artificial flavors and preservatives. They're gluten-free and they're third-party lab tested. So you know what you're getting is quality. And they're grown right in Kentucky, right here in the US. You can actually trace your product to the farm, right to the doorstep. And what I really appreciate is how seamlessly these gummies can fit into your routine, because if I'm taking another capsule or supplement, I'm done. So if you take them in the morning or the evening, they're not psychoactive, but they're perfect for daily use. And I find when I take these, it's helping relax my nervous system and calming my full body without putting me in a place where I feel sedated or sleepy. And that's really important, especially living a stressful lifestyle. The most exciting part about this is for the Heal Thyself community, Cornbread Hemp is offering an exclusive discount for you, the Heal Thyself listener. You can get 30% off of your first order, plus they'll ship it to you for free. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/DRG. That is cornbreadhemp.com/Dr. G, and use the code DRG at checkout and see how these help your nervous system out. If you love the podcast and you want to be down with the Dr. G Heal Thyself community, we give incredible tips every single week on getting a healthier physical, mental, and emotional body. The newest updates of my favorite products, the newest updates of my favorite practices. Stay in the loop by joining the Dr. G community. All you got to do is go to any one of my posts on Instagram and comment the word news. You'll get a DM to join.
Most plant-based proteins are very high in toxic heavy metals as well. Arsenic is a particular problem, like in brown rice protein. So rice protein is one of the more bioavailable ones, but it's full of toxins. And so you're saying, okay, I'm going to spend a bunch of money and buy a lab-tested rice protein that's lower in toxic metals. It's still only 30% as effective as having some yogurt. Like, you can do it.
Like a Greek yogurt or something. It would just be better choice.
Yeah. Or whey protein, or God forbid, a piece of grass-fed hamburger.
Yeah. I was a vegan for 11 years.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry.
And the way I'll say this is the most, I've gained like muscle, and I haven't had muscle in a long time.
Yeah.
And it was whey protein. It really, really helped me like exponentially.
You can be vegetarian and be reasonably healthy because you have access to eggs and you have access to dairy protein.
Right.
And if you cut those out of your diet, you can't get any good fats, and you can't build muscle, and your testosterone levels are lower because you're mineral deficient and you don't have the saturated fat and cholesterol that it takes to make testosterone and estrogen and even some of the stress hormones. And you say, stress hormones, aren't those bad? No. If you exercise, your cortisol is supposed to go up. It's part of how you heal.
Yeah.
Right. And if you can't do that, you just get depleted. And what I've found about 11 years ago here in Santa Monica, I built the world's first biohacking center called Upgrade Labs under Arnold Schwarzenegger's office. And so for that amount of time, I've been working with a set of technologies that can either stress the body in a structured way, now with AI, or cause a recovery faster than Mother Nature. And we have 32 locations opening now. It's a franchise model. We've got 8 open. So you go into Upgrade Labs and we'll measure electrical activity of the cells. And then if you want to put on muscle, or you want to burn fat, or you want your brain to work better, is a very different set of things, but the principle is always the same. It's small amount of intense stress, very small amount, followed by profound recovery in the presence of minerals and protein and fat. And if you do that, this is how profound it is. You might think like I did. I used to go to the gym 90 minutes a day, 6 days a week for 18 months straight to try to lose 100 pounds. Didn't lose a pound. But I was not eating enough food. I wasn't getting the right protein or the right fat. So what you'll find is, if you were to do an hour a day of spin class, which a lot of women do these days, and saying, well, I know I'm going to lose weight. Well, the data shows if you do that for 2 months straight, okay, that means every single day putting on your spandex, someone playing some annoying music, and then you stand up on your pedals because it's shameful if you're the only one who can't stand up. And like you do that, like I'm a good person, I'm all sweaty. That's just a lot of laundry. But you're going to improve by 2% if you beat yourself up for 5 hours every week. Or you come into Upgrade Labs and you understand the things we just talked about. 5 minutes, 3 times a week, you improve by 12%. 6 times better results in 15 minutes versus 5 hours, because recovery is a part of what you do. It's not about working harder. It's not about grinding out the miles. It's not about burning calories. It's about brief, purposeful, intense stress for a small period of time, followed by peace, safety, and nourishment. And then the body's like, I got this. There was a brief period I needed to be stronger, but now I've got everything I need to grow and transform and change. But instead you have a freaking celery juice. The body goes, there was a stressor. I got nothing to build on here. I guess I'll just stay stressed.
I see what you're saying. So giving the body the building blocks to recover, you are valuing so much more of the recovery versus just the stressors, not eating right, not bringing back the system.
At Upgrade Labs, if you want endurance or you want muscle or fat loss, it's about 20% stimulation and 80% recovery technologies.
Whoa.
And that drives people to have, like we had a guy lose 40 pounds in under 2 months, and they're not spending a lot of time. You barely even sweat.
Easy though, right? Like you're supposed to run for 45 minutes every day.
Only if you want to replace your knees and hips when you're 60.
That's true.
Yeah.
And do a lot of laundry, you said.
Yeah.
But like that's beautiful technology, right? Like that's stuff that we need as a society. It gives us more time with ourselves, with our kids, with everyone.
Well, you get more energy and you get your time back. And so that means, of course, now you can be with your community. And so I found it to be really stressful. But when I was in my early 20s, I had 3 knee surgeries. I had arthritis in my knee since I was 14. And I'm going to lose this weight. It's the most important thing in my life. And it didn't matter what was happening. I just went to the gym every single day, Monday through Saturday, without fail for 18 months. At the end, like I'm strong. I'm still fat, 46-inch waist, but I'm strong. And then I went and I played laser tag actually, which was a thing back when I was in my 20s, and my knee blows out again. Like, God damn, like what is going on? Well, if you're malnourished, your body won't heal and won't let you lose weight.
Do you, when you had that weight on, did you think that there was an emotional component at all to that?
You know, there's anytime you're fat, you're a willpower athlete, because every single time you're hungry, like I'm going to fight the hunger. And like sometimes the cookie's going to win and sometimes you're going to win. And I'll just eat half the cookie. And there's like this, there's always a guilt and shame component to it. In my case, I don't think a lot of it was emotional, but I did have this message, and a lot of people have heard this. you have to eat 6 times a day or your body will go into starvation mode, which is the biggest load of crap that's ever been said. But if you believe that, starvation is a direct threat to your nervous system. So then you're afraid of not eating. And then I would also eat if I was lonely. And it's possible to be lonely in a room full of people. I think a lot of listeners know that. So along my path back in, I think 2008, I'm like, well, I'm just going to face this head on. I hired a shaman to drop me off in a cave all by myself for 4 days. So there's no food and no people. And so I can get hypoglycemic, I'm hangry, I can experience loneliness and hunger, and like either I'll die or I'm not, right? And it was really transformational because at the end of that, I came out, I had more energy than I'd had in years. And I ended up hiking up the wrong mountain to get out of the cave. I'm like, I haven't eaten in 3 days and I have more endurance than I did before I started. And it really broke my fear of being hungry. And I wrote, that was a big part of, or that journey, we'll say, was a part of my book called Fast This Way. And it's funny, the Bulletproof Diet, which is almost 1 million copies sold, and around the world, people lost millions of pounds. That was the first big book on intermittent fasting. I'm like, you can skip breakfast or you can do this other thing that's the equivalent of a fast. So people were over fasting because oftentimes we hear, well, if something is good, more is better. And what you'll find is that women over fast more than men. And if you over fast, you over vegan, or even over carnivore or over keto, there's a predictable set of things that'll happen to you. And the first thing is, and they happen to women about 2 to 4 weeks before it happens to men on average. And the first thing is your sleep quality goes down. And if you wear a sleep tracker, you'll notice it. But otherwise you wake up, God, I slept all night. I just don't feel great.
Right.
Right. And you keep going because you know what you're doing is good for you. Yeah. And then pretty soon you feel changes in your monthly cycle, or you wake up without a kickstand. And then if you keep going, then suddenly your hair starts thinning differently for men and women. But your hair can thin for both. That's actually excess cortisol or from a nutrient deficiency. But I made the mistake when I was a raw vegan, I went through all of that and you just don't know that that's what's causing it, because for the first month or two, you feel really good.
Yeah.
So I would just caution people, don't over fast. So I had to write Fast This Way to talk about the psychological and spiritual side of fasting, and that fasting is a stressor just like exercise. And if you are recovering from a cold, you didn't sleep last night, you got in a fight with your partner, maybe today you don't need to do a 6-minute cold plunge, intermittent fast, and do a CrossFit workout. Like your stress load's high enough. So you fast differently each day depending on your stress load and what your body needs.
And that's in the Fastest Way?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So we have access to that. We can just take a look at it.
I do my best to teach all the most important stuff.
Yeah. So we have this foundation of the cell. Look, it's the mitochondria is happy. It's got its fats. It's got its vitamins, minerals. It's got its protein, amino acids. What happens in a happy mitochondria? How do we know that I'm doing something right now? How am I going to feel different?
Well, the first thing is resilience. And the idea is that you want to feel like you have enough energy to handle anything that life brings your way. And that's why Danger Coffee is called Dangerous, that who knows what you might do. And it's like, I could do anything I want right now. And yeah, something that I don't like happened to me, but I've got this. And it's like a feeling in your bones, right? And it's funny that having enough energy is deeply tied to feeling safe in the world. And the feeling of safety is different usually for men and women, but it's this deep sense of, I've got this, like I can handle this. And when your mitochondria are dysfunctional, you feel like you might be overwhelmed and you're just hanging on. And I remember when I was having real problems with my mitochondria and therefore with my brain, because your brain uses about 20% of your energy, maybe a little bit less, but around there. I went and I got a brain scan from Dr. Daniel Amen, who's a well-known brain doctor and a good friend. I'm on his board of directors now, but I didn't know him back then. And I remember I was failing out of business school. My brain just wouldn't work no matter how hard I tried. So I went into a psychiatrist and he looks at me and he's like, tech bro wants Adderall. I'm like, no, I'm in Silicon Valley. I'm in technology. I don't want Adderall. I just want to be able to pass my classes. And when I walked back in with a brain scan, I'll never forget this. He looks at me and he goes, inside your brain is total chaos. I don't know how you're standing here in front of me. You have the best camouflage I've ever seen. And like, finally, someone believes me. And there are so many people who have chronic fatigue syndrome, which I had, or fibromyalgia, or they just feel like crap. Like, but your labs look normal. And then the doctor's like, like it's all in your head, walk it off. Or, here's some antidepressants or something. And it's deeply disrespectful. It's a mitochondrial dysfunction. Maybe it's toxic metals. Maybe it's mold toxins, which was a big part for me. Maybe it's your diet. Maybe it's your sleep. And maybe it's emotional. Maybe you have PTSD like I did too. But to blame it on the emotional without addressing the hardware problems it's not good medicine.
You need to do both.
You got to do both.
I love that. And you mentioned mold. And would you say that that is one of the biggest disruptors to mitochondria?
It's huge what mold does. I was allergic to 8 of the top 10 toxic molds, which means I've had heavy exposures. I know where and when and which houses I was in and how sick I was. Even as a kid, I grew up in a basement that had been flooded. Nobody knew. So what does mold do? Well, there's lots of studies. It's a direct mitochondrial toxin. It causes cancer. Not all molds cause all cancers, but it's a major trigger. Also, it's tied to Alzheimer's disease. And one of the molds that's most pernicious is called zearalenone. It's a mold toxin. And this is likely one of the ones I had because it's 10,000 times more estrogenic than human estrogen. And it's so powerful at making you fat that in the cattle industry, they concentrate this mold toxin into little waxy pellets. They put it in a cow's ear. Just a little bit of wax is that powerful. It melts, enters the cow's cell membranes, and then that cow gets fat on 30% less calories.
Wow.
Now, the fact that this mold toxin exists and that they sell it should tell you that calories in and calories out as a way to lose weight is a pretty stupid way of looking at things. Because this drug cannot exist if you could just get thin by eating less calories. That's not how it works. It's metabolism. And estrogen makes you hold on to fat like no one's business. And people who live in a house with, it just smells a little musty, there's just a few spots, depending on what's growing there, that is a direct cause of anxiety because your mitochondria cannot make energy. And even worse, your body's not great at recognizing these toxins because they're very small. So then the body has this sense of doom. Like, I know something's wrong. I'm not making energy. Yeah. And you start looking for the problem. And since your brain is rational, it's going to find one. It's going to be your partner. It's going to be this person. It's going to be that thing.
Everything.
And it's just a feeling of constant stress. And a lot of times toxic mold is implicated in PTSD and anxiety and depression and sleep disturbances and unexplained weight gain and immune problems. And no one believed this. I did a documentary called Moldy, and it's at moldymovie.com. It's totally free. And I interviewed 10 experts and 10 people like me who are perfectly normal. You live in a moldy house and it just wrecks you. And the data is there's at least 100 million structures, including almost every school out there, because they don't maintain the ceilings, that have toxic mold.
Yeah.
So if you have mold in your house and you're struggling with your anxiety and your weight gain and your immune system and everything feels like doom, at least get an air filter.
At least at the very least. Yeah. Man, this was, oh my God, the biggest health thing I've ever came across was mold. And it was anxiety, depression, constant state of doom, poor energy, fatigue, everything under the book. And did you, when you got over it, or when you talked to so many people, did they have to throw away all their stuff? Like if someone's listening, they go, oh crap, I got to get someone to check mold. They find mold, they get it remediated. What about their stuff? Are they supposed to throw it all away?
Sadly, anything that's porous that you can't send to a dry cleaner or wash, you're probably gonna have to get rid of it. Mm. And I did that. And it's not very fun. I still have one box of papers from the house that was moldiest, and it's like taped closed. And if I ever need those papers, I go outside and open them with a fan on, and I still don't feel good after that. Whatever was in that, it's bad. And if you have that, bookshelf full of moldy books from your last place, at least you can dust them off. It turns out dust in the house is a major source of transmission for this. But it gets worse too, because mold is present in plant foods a lot, especially grains and nuts and seeds and dried fruit and coffee. And there's actual mold you can see. And then there's the concentration of toxins from mold called mycotoxins. And a lot of people say, well, that couldn't make a difference. You ever take a little penicillin capsule that changes everything? Mm-hmm. That's concentrated mold toxin. It doesn't take very much to shift the whole microbiome and everything in your body. So most governments on the planet have a legal limit for the amount of mold toxin in coffee. We have no limit in the US. And I was with the president of the Specialty Coffee Association in person, and he's saying, oh yeah, I was in Japan when they rejected 1,000 shipping containers full of coffee beans because they were moldy. And I said, what'd you do with the coffee? We sent it to the US. It's not illegal. And that's why Danger Coffee, lab tested, mold free, and it's remineralized, because that's what I want to put in my body. I can feel most coffee. I quit coffee for 5 years and I have so many friends. In fact, a lot of women, I can't drink coffee. It makes me jittery, but they can drink a Red Bull or something. It's not caffeine that's doing it. It's that specific coffee has a separate compound from caffeine from fermentation and mold. And so they don't feel jittery when they have Danger Coffee. Isn't that weird?
Interesting. Because that's my experience with coffee. I stopped drinking it because I would get so jittery and it just stayed. It wasn't nice. It wasn't a nice experience. All right. So we got the big picture now. How do we start regulating our nervous system? And I love this approach of starting with your mitochondria. I actually don't see a lot of people talking about that approach. And I think I would fully get on board with that, how important it is.
Here's how you start.
Yeah. Let's get the codes.
Okay. You take a deep breath and you meditate on the blood of your enemies.
Okay.
Don't do that.
We get a full meditation of the blood of the enemies.
What you want to do is start with understanding the operating system of your body. And I'll walk you through how your body makes energetic allocation decisions and why. And that creates a lot of peace and freedom so you can regulate yourself. So here's what all life on the planet does. And it doesn't matter if you're a bacteria like a mitochondria or you're a slime mold like a politician, or that was nonpartisan, just to be clear, or whether you're a zebra or a tree. The first thing you do always, remember, life has to be dumb, but very fast. So it's not allowed to think about time and to wax philosophical. That's what our human brains do. But that's not what keeps us alive. It's core biology. So first thing, run away from, kill, or hide from scary things. And you do that before you have a time or a chance to think. And you do this because this is what happens if a tiger is going to jump out and bite you. And an example of that, you ever lean on a hot stove and then look down and go, God, that's really hot. I think I should move my hand. No. You pull your hand away, go, good thing I moved my hand. Your body moved the hand all by itself. That was your mitochondria protecting themselves. It was an automatic response. And some people say, well, no, that was a peripheral nerve. What do you think sitting in front of and inside the peripheral nerves calling the shots? It's the mitochondria. So your body pulls your hand away. So it can do all these things. And this is the same reason that skeptics cannot see evidence, because it's too scary. Run away from, hide, or kill. Those are your three choices. And if you're a plant, well, I can't run away, I have roots. Let me cover my babies, called seeds, in toxins so that if animals eat them, the animals will be less healthy. They still got the energy, but they paid for it, right? So this is an elegant and beautiful system. So number one, fear. These are all F words. The second thing all life does, because we've run out of food a few times, is feed, right? So don't let anything eat you, eat everything. This is good. This lets everything be alive without a brain in there at all, right? The third thing that all life has to do on Earth to stay around for multiple generations, that's an F word. You know what that one is?
Fornicate.
I was thinking fertility, but you can go straight to it.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm glad you didn't drop the full F-bomb. But yeah, it's reproduction or fertility. And your body is going to do all of this processing before you have a chance to think. So this sounds kind of dark. Something walks in the door and you're like, is it scary? No. Can I eat it? No. Can I F it? Okay. And then after your body does all this pre-processing for you, it gives you a feeling about that thing.
Whoa.
And then you tell yourself a story to make the feeling rational.
Right.
That's kind of dark. The good side though, I just gave you an excuse for every bad thing you've ever done in your life.
Sounds like it.
Like everything you're ever ashamed of was your mitochondria.
Yeah.
God, I didn't take the opportunity. I procrastinated. Then I ate all the Ben and Jerry's and all the pizza. And then I went out on a date with those three people all at the same time that I know wasn't a good idea. And like, why did I do that? Or whatever your thing was, right?
Yeah.
So wow, these are all biological imperatives. And this is your body allocating energy to fear, food, and fornication before you can think, and then convincing you that that's what you wanted.
Mm.
Wow. Okay, at least you have an excuse for all that stuff. But what's next? Its friend. All life on Earth supports its own species and those around it. And you have to do that. You're wired to do that inside your bones. And after friend is forgiveness, which is the final F word. And forgiveness is harder for humans because we worry about things, we think about them, we ruminate, we ponder. You know, if something gets under our skin and we can't sleep at night because we're thinking about whatever your boss said and all that stuff. Well, you're wired to evolve as a human being inside your cells. All life evolves. And the way we evolve is by going back and reprogramming our fear and getting over it. And we do that through forgiveness. For an animal, as soon as the threat's gone, the forgiveness is instantaneous. You see the videos, you know, the lion almost eats the deer and the deer gets away, it just shakes itself a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it just starts eating. It was done. We just have a hard time being done. So for me, the practice of forgiveness, which is not saying something that happened was okay, it's just stop holding a grudge, which is an energetic thing you do that involves your mitochondria, involves your heart, involves your whole vagal nerve. When you do that right, suddenly the things that felt like they were a cause of fear, they're no longer a fear. The trigger's gone. So instead of doing the old Buddhist thing, well, sit still like in yoga class. Notice the feelings. The feelings are coming through you. Set them aside. Dude, that takes a lot of mitochondrial energy to notice them and set them aside and feel them. Maybe you could just like forgive them so that they don't do that anymore. It's like turning off all the alerts on your phone so you can actually use your phone without TikTok interrupting your train of thought. So the process of forgiveness works very well on fear. Learning how to eat can turn off your thoughts about hunger. The average person spends 30% of their thoughts every day, this is from a study, thinking about food. Literally a third of your thoughts are about tacos. So what's next? Oh, the fornicate word. This can be a source of nourishment as well. So like healthy, sacred intimacy radically regulates your nervous system, more so than almost anything else for adults in healthy relationships. So learning how to make that a source of nourishment and a way to co-regulate your nervous system with another person, 20% of people report that they meet God during orgasm. They just look like they're flopping around having a good time, but there's something deeper and more profound going on. And when you do those right, there's so much energy left over that of course you want to support your friends and be in a community. And of course you have energy left to forgive and regulate your nervous system and evolve and improve yourself. And like, that's how life is supposed to work. So if you fix your mitochondria, more energy to allocate across the F words, and then you fix your fear, and suddenly it flows into fixing your nutrition, which flows into improving your relationships and your intimacy. And then, wow, I have so much energy at the end of the day that let me take care of my family. Let me help my friends. Let me do something in the world. And like, that's how it's supposed to work. So I know we're wired in our bones to be kind to each other if we're well nourished. That's what it comes down to. And then your nervous system regulates itself because your community and service to community regulates your nervous system.
Well, that's beautiful, man. Did you get that in a journey somewhere, or did you just come up with that?
I've written a major New York Times science bestseller on mitochondrial function in the brain. I've studied distributed systems and AI in Silicon Valley, and I've studied the ego. I've run a neuroscience personal development company that 40 years is in, with almost 2,000 people coming through over the last 10 years. And this knowledge emerged from deep work on all of that. And just, there is an order to life, and it has to work in a way that doesn't require thinking, because most life doesn't have enough processing capacity to think. And when you see something beautiful like a chrysanthemum or a shell, like, oh, it's, you know, so beautiful and elegant, but we can take just a few simple rules, and if you replicate them enough times on a computer, the same shapes that are in the flowers and shells will emerge. So it turns out beauty emerges that looks complex, but it's just simple things repeated infinite numbers of times. So a lot of our egoic behaviors, they're just the beautiful system of life trying to stay alive. And we don't understand your body has its own consciousness that is not you. And the mean thoughts in your head, They're not you. They're your body trying to keep you from getting eaten by tigers. And it thinks that a criticism is a tiger. It thinks that the smell of toxic mold in the air is a tiger. And it responds like there's a tiger. And it's learning to create and generate inner peace that creates so much freedom and capacity in people. And you can learn to do that. It's just a lot easier if you have some help learning. And that's why I write about different techniques, different technologies, things like breath work, meditation, even psychedelics. The book that I have that's coming out in Q1 of 2025 is called Heavily Meditated. And I actually teach people the process of forgiveness we use at 40 Years of Zen.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool with electrodes on your head. If you try to tell yourself you forgave mom, but you didn't, your brainwaves are going to give you away. So you have to do the work. But I teach people how to do this at home, because learning how to let go of the guy who cut you off in traffic so you don't lose sleep tonight, that's a ninja level skill, but we should all be taught this in high school.
Man, we got the spiritual side of Dave Asprey. I love that. We really biohacked the nervous system on that, man. And I can't wait to have that book to read it. January, you said?
When is this? I don't know.
January, February?
March, somewhere in there.
Well, I like the name. We'll wait for it next year, early on.
Heavily meditated.
Heavily meditated. Yeah. Okay. And we got the coffee, the danger. I'm going to listen. I haven't had coffee in 5 years.
Dude, that's how long I gave up coffee.
5 years. So this is my first time. I'm going to do it. I'm going to put it on camera. Okay. I'm going to do it first time because I trust in this guy.
Do it in the morning.
Do it in the morning. First thing in the morning.
Can I tell you how I came up with this thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, 5 years for me, no coffee, because I would drink it and then like an hour later, you're like, ugh.
Same.
And you want sugar, and that's just toxins. So I didn't know that though. So I go to Tibet and I've had yak butter tea like on the side of the holiest mountain in the world and go on this whole journey. And I come back to Silicon Valley. I'm like, God, I just want a cup of coffee. I haven't had one in so long. So I bought like this high-end cup of single estate coffee and I drank it. And like angels started to sing and like, this is the best thing ever. And my brain is so happy. I'm like, I'm cured. I'm not allergic to coffee.
Right.
And the next day I had another different high-end coffee and I felt like crap. And I thought, wait a minute, I couldn't have changed overnight. It must be the coffee. And I did all this research on it. And I realized they send the world's worst coffee to the US. And then we cook it nice and dark and then put a bunch of sugar in it and feel like crap when we drink it. And when I figured out how to lab test it and make it clean, it was like, I got my coffee back. And I'll tell you, I travel around the world. I bring 40 grams of finely ground danger coffee with me for every day of my travel. And I brew it in a bottle in my hotel room because I will not drink airport or hotel coffee. It's not worth it. I feel like crap every time.
Yeah.
So it's not the coffee, it's the mold.
Amazing.
And that's why danger coffee.
Danger coffee. I'm going to open, I'm going to give it a try. I can't wait. I'm excited. Yeah, we'll share it. And thank you for coming on the show, man. How can people find you who are just discovering you here and really vibing with this information?
All right. DaveAsprey.com is my main thing. I'm on Instagram a lot. If you go to 40 Years of Zen, that's my neuroscience thing. Upgrade Labs is those health clubs that give you those fast results. DangerCoffee.com for Danger Coffee. But just search for Dave Asprey. I'm all over the place.
And you'll find a lot on there. Thank you for coming on the show, man, and helping us hack the nervous system. We're biohacking the nervous system. I love this, and I love hearing that from you. Thank you so much, man.
You got it.